Good morning, I'm Maiki Oreta and you're watching Business 360, where we break down the numbers, connect the dots, and give you the developments and the insights you need to navigate, adapt, and lead. Let's dive right in. U.S. President Donald Trump urges Republican lawmakers to back his sweeping tax cut proposal amid growing tensions over Medicaid and Senate and state tax breaks, Philippine banks report over 100 billion pesos in first quarter profits as interest income and non-lending revenues continue to grow. Chinese President Xi Jinping calls for stronger support for domestic manufacturing to boost self-reliance and technological innovation. And tech giant Alphabet unveils new AI-powered features for Google Search as it steps up competition in the global tech race. U.S. President Donald Trump struggles to rally support from fellow Republicans for his sweeping tax cut bill during a high-stakes visit to Congress. In what he called a meeting of love on Capitol Hill, Trump warned House Republicans against making further changes to the bill, especially proposals that would make it harder for low-income Americans to access Medicaid. He also urges lawmakers to avoid removing deductions for state and local taxes, a key issue for moderate Republicans in high-tax states like New York and California. The tax bill seeks to cut tax rates while tightening eligibility for Medicaid, a health program that covers over 70 million Americans.
That was a meeting of love. Let me tell you, that was love in that room. There was no shouting. I think it was a meeting of love. There were a couple of things that we talked about specifically where some people felt a little bit one way or the other, not a big deal. And I covered them. It wasn't so much a speech. I covered certain points. And I think I'd be very surprised.
The outcome of Trump's tax push could have far-reaching effects on U.S. federal spending, healthcare access, and consumer spending power, with global markets and developing economies watching closely for impacts on aid, trade, and interest rate policy. Now let's take a look at how global markets moved overnight as investors weigh rising U.S. debt levels and U.S. Treasury yields. U.S. stocks closed lower on Tuesday as climbing Treasury yield put pressure on equities, with traders fixated on the outlook for America's sovereign debt. This comes as President Donald Trump traveled to Capitol Hill to rally Republican support for his sweeping tax cut plan, a proposal analysts say could add between $3 to $5 trillion to the federal government's current $36.2 trillion debt.
What's happening really today, and really when you look at just a week ago, stocks have taken a big pause. VIX went at the height from 60 down to where it's now 18, and you're getting this sideways motion, maybe up just a bit, 1.5 on the S&P and Dow. The reality of what's happening is the market took a breather. And the breather happened from we all know what, tariff pushing out some negotiations, Britain under his belt, China happening. It's not a deal. It's an ongoing negotiation, but it's big. And they pushed that out 90 days. That comes up in August.
The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.3%. The S&P 500 lost 0.4%, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq dropped 0.4% as well. Over in Europe, markets ended higher. London's FTSE 100 climbed 1%, Germany's DAX added 0.4%, and France's CAC 40 higher by 0.8%. Now, strong bank profits signal resilience in the Philippine financial sector despite slower economic growth and easing inflation. Data from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas shows that the banking industry's net income rose to 101.91 billion pesos in the first quarter, up 10.6% from 92.11 billion in the same period last year. The gains were driven by a rise in interest income, which grew to 395.99 billion pesos, as banks benefited from higher rates and stronger lending activity. Non-interest income also climbed to 60.67 billion pesos from 52.98 billion a year earlier, reflecting growth in fees, trading, and other banking services. The latest figures come ahead of expected monetary easing by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, which could pressure margins but support broader credit growth in the second half. The government's 20 peso per kilo rice program is now underway, and officials say it's already beginning to ease retail prices in select markets. The Department of Agriculture reports that several Metro Manila markets have cut rice prices by up to 5 pesos per kilo, citing early impact from government intervention. Agriculture Assistant Secretary Arnel de Mesa says 250 metric tons of rice have already been released under the program. This aims to benefit 15 million households nationwide. The initial phase has rolled out in parts of the Visayas, targeting vulnerable sectors with expansion to more areas scheduled for July. The program is part of the Marcos administration's broader push to stabilize food prices ahead of the main harvest season and inflationary pressures in the second half. The Court of Tax Appeals denies Oceana Gold Philippines' 407 million peso tax refund claim after ruling that the mining firm missed the statutory deadline. The court says Oceana Gold failed to prove it was still within its cost recovery period when it paid excise taxes from 2015 to 2016. The company argues that its recovery period started in 2013, but the court found documents indicating commercial production may have begun as early as 2008. That would place the end of its 5-year tax-exempt window in 2013, making the refund request no longer valid. The court also notes that Oceana Gold failed to obtain proper approval from the Department of Environment and Natural Resources for its claimed expenses. The ruling underscores stricter tax and regulatory enforcement in the mining sector amid government efforts to tighten incentives and boost revenue collection. The Philippines slips to 64th place out of 100 countries in the 2025 Global Startup Ecosystem Index, its fourth year of straight declines. Now, the country falls from 60th last year as it continues to struggle with gaps in infrastructure, regulation, and access to funding. The Philippines scores just 2.24 in the latest index, highlighting the need for stronger public-private support to scale innovation and attract venture capital. On another front, power demand is surging globally, and experts warn that the rise of artificial intelligence could push global energy consumption to quadruple by 2028. Here in the Philippines, climate change and energy price volatility are triggering a major rethink on how to power the economy sustainably and securely. Sujin Kim has this story.
Global power consumption is projected to more than quadruple in 2028, according to energy management company Schneider Electric. Climate change is also expected to inflict heavy economic costs, with losses equivalent to 3.2% of Philippine GDP by 2030 and as high as 5.7% by 2040.
The demand of the power consumption because of AI will have 4.2 times increase. ChatGPT query consume almost 10 times of the energy than a simple Google search. So without any technology advance, imagine today's, every day we have 9 billion search would add additional 10 terawatt of electricity consumption per year. This forces us to rethink how and where we build data centers.
In the face of rapidly rising demand, energy price volatility has become a major concern, with nearly half of Asian businesses identifying it as their biggest risk.
The main challenge is energy security, but given climate change, we're adding another dimension, which is sustainability. We really need to balance all of these three, being mindful, of course, of the costs, being mindful of being able to provide reliable energy to power the Philippine economy.
From the data center side, the cost of electricity in this market is still too high because the Philippines has numerous pass-through charges that are getting passed on to customers, and also these other countries are subsidizing their power.
The Energy Regulatory Commission is pushing for what it calls energy democracy. Through the retail aggregation program, businesses can now choose their own power providers, leading to savings of $18.57 billion as of last year. On the capital market side, the Securities and Exchange Commission is building a regulatory framework to promote green finance, ensuring that private capital is aligned with the country's sustainability targets.
We are aligning the Philippine capital market with this national agenda through policies that integrate sustainability and innovation.
Alongside GSS bonds, the SEC is rolling out a green equity guideline designed to boost market transparency and reassure global investors.
The green equity label is designed to improve transparency, increase investor confidence, and enhance the global visibility of Philippine economies.
Sujin Kim, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
We're taking a quick break. Please stay with us as we dive deep into the numbers and the narratives that matter most to your bottom line. Welcome back. Let's check on how Asian markets are doing this morning. Right now, the Nikkei 225 is trading to the downside, lower by 0.2%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index is in the green, higher by 0.4%. And Shanghai's Composite Index is higher by 0.1%. Now, over in Singapore, that market Straits Times Index is lower by 0.2%. Here at home, Philippine shares extended their losses Tuesday, with the main gauge dropping 2% to 63.35, its lowest close in 3 weeks. Now, the market slid for a fifth straight session yesterday following a sharp widening in the country's balance of payments deficit and signs of softening consumer demand, including a double-digit drop in vehicle sales. Now, sentiment was further dampened by heightened risk aversion after Moody's downgraded the United States' credit rating. Over the short term, analysts expect volatility to persist as investors monitor global credit risks, domestic spending trends, and any signals of central bank support. Right now, as of 10:19 this morning, the main gauge is trading to the downside, lower by 0.2% to 32.24. All shares index is flat with a downward bias. As for the sub-indices, the financials, services, and mining and oil counters are bucking the market's current downtrend, with the mining and oil counter up by almost 3% in early trade, up sharply there. Now, total volume is at 247 million shares, while value is a little under 2 billion. So far, market breadth is positive. We've got 69 advancers, 49 decliners, while 35 stocks remain unchanged. Now, checking on the currency market, the peso opened stronger at 55.58 to the dollar, higher from its previous close of 55.63. Now, the midterm elections have just wrapped up, ushering in a new set of lawmakers who will play a crucial role in shaping the country's economic agenda for the remainder of this administration. Business groups are moving quickly. The Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, one of the country's largest business organizations, is urging the 20th Congress to fast-track key reforms to strengthen competitiveness and to attract more investments. Now, I spoke with PCCI Chairman George Barcelon on their legislative priorities and what the business sector hopes to see from this new Congress, and here is that interview. Hi, sir. Thank you for being here with us.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me, Maiki.
Okay, so sir, we've just concluded the elections. The results are out. What is the general sentiment of the PCCI post-elections?
Well, from observation, the election last Monday is generally peaceful and credible. I think the COMELEC, the selection of their partners, as far as the scanners, as far as the training of the public school teachers, performed very well. There's a few hiccups out of the more than 110-something machines. There are only about 300 or so machines that had some issues. So we're very happy that what has transpired, it gives that transparency. And if you notice that many of the media, TV stations are hooked up, so they're able to get their information quite early, GMA, ANC, CBN, CNN, and those information was shared to the general public. So because of that, there's a consensus among our citizens that they're happy that they appreciate the relevant information are given to them as early as possible for them to assess the election itself.
Mm-hmm. And sir, as they start buckling down to work, what do you want to see from the 20th Congress within the first 100 days in office?
Well, the issues that confronts the nation has been there. Those are the issues that I think both the newly elected and the incumbent elected officers must deal with. At top of key issues is really the malnutrition of our young, and it affects their growth, their stunted growth, and also their cognitive skill as they grow. And in connection to that, it's also our education, quality of our education. We rank pretty low in international assessment test, and it's about we have to really drastically do something about it because they are our assets. Although we have a young population of 25 out of 100, almost 120 million, we need to have the young people being able to be an asset to us rather than a liability.
Yeah, absolutely.
So those are things. Yeah.
Yeah, this is important because it speaks of the, the economic productivity of the Philippines. Specifically, what would you like to ask from the Department of Health and the Department of Education to increase the productivity levels of our future workforce, sir?
We have a very aggressive and active Secretary of Education, Senator Sonny Angara. I have had the opportunity to talk with him, and he shared the concern that our educations need to be looked into and see how we can tweak the system. Instead of the years of education, which is the matrix that we use. Somebody takes from grade school and then K10 to K12. It should be the important area is the learning. Okay? A lot of our students goes through the whole K-12, but we still find them lacking in the private sector when we want to hire them. And in the technical skills also, Tesla, Secretary Benitez, is collaborating with the private sector on the upskilling and the training, which in our private sector we call it TechVoc, technical vocational. And those are important for them to, after their study, that they can be gainfully employed. We still have our fourth piece, which takes a big chunk out of our budget. But as the saying goes, it's better to teach somebody how to fish, than give them fish every day for them to survive.
Okay. So going back to the economic reforms you want to see within the first 100 days, what would you like to see prioritized by this new Congress?
They have to also, they need to look at the agricultural sector seriously, wherein we have to improve our productivity. If you look at the statistics that was given out, that there was higher expectation on the agri sector, but actually the growth was very minimal. And that, of course, reflects on our concern on food security and also on the aspect of inflation. Why other countries are not badly affected when there's their currency drops or devaluate is because the food are available in their country. They have a good, strong, vibrant agricultural sector. While in our case, we import a lot of our food related items. So if there's a change in our currency, if our peso devaluate, everything goes up.
So, sir, key measures you'd like to see from the Department of Agriculture to this end?
The Secretary, Kiko Laurel, I think he's doing his best to resolve some of the gaps. We do have gaps as far as on the logistics side. The cost of transporting farm to market is quite prohibitive. Again, on the side of the productivity is something that we should invest in technology. I mean, nowadays, agriculture is high tech. I mean, you have what we call IoT, Internet of Things, wherein you can get information real time. And if you notice some of the outside from videos, people, farmers in other countries, they use drone to monitor their farms and everything. And those are important. But also, what's important is that the country really to have a overall plan as far as the water resources and irrigation.
Okay.
That is very crucial in the agricultural sectors.
Okay. Another thing that's crucial, sir, one major political development coming up is the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Are you and the members of PCCI concerned that this is taking center stage? Are you concerned that it may drag on? And are you concerned that it might take away the attention of lawmakers? I mean, we want to keep the momentum going for economic reform. Are you concerned that this trial might distract the lawmakers from focusing on key economic initiatives?
Well, honestly, every citizen in our country is concerned about this. But our concern is that the news that is being picked up in the international does not help us. We're trying to attract more investment to the country, and rightly so. I mean, the government has been very proactive. We have to create more law. Yes, trying to get more investment. But we do have problem on our power issues. Our cost of power is high, but they are doing something about it. But generally speaking, is that there's guarded optimism in the private sectors. We have our political issues. We have, recently the geopolitical issues on the reciprocal tariff that was imposed. But luckily, we are in a better position because the imposition to the country is quite low.
Mm-hmm. Sir, on another front, you mentioned our image overseas. Foreign investments plunged 82% year on year to nearly 28 billion pesos in the first quarter of 2025. How worried are you by this?
Well, you're referring to investment
Yes.
from there's a lot of investment coming in, but a lot of investment are focused on energy related. We hope that we would like to see more on manufacturing, particularly the electronic sectors. Okay? But for us, one of the low-key or low-hanging fruits for economic development is tourism. We have, last year, the data shows that we have hardly 7 million tourists that visited the Philippines. And I know Secretary Christine Frasco is doing her best in promoting our country so that some of the visitors coming from Europe and from North America and also the ASEAN tourists would come to the Philippines. The number of tourists that goes to Thailand is 38 million.
Yeah.
Number of tourists going to Vietnam is 15, 16 million. So we're in a way, we're in the numbers that we have here can really have a lot of upside if we promote the Philippines.
We want to get a bigger chunk of that pie.
That's true. That's true.
The drop, 82% month on month. What does it say about the country's ability to attract global capital? And what do you want to see from our new Congress so that we can get a bigger chunk of all of that foreign direct investment and tourism?
Well, I'd like to see our legislator works on the key area of, as I mentioned earlier. But it's important to set a timeline. We cannot be discussing this year after year. And then, to reflect on our election, it's an awakening. We can see that our voters now have expectations that our legislator deliver a lot of what they expect. And so there's a new faces in our lower and upper house. And I hope that everybody can be working on the same goals of promoting the welfare of the country economically, and also on the healthcare side, can make it available, health available for and affordable.
And sir, as we step into the second half of the year, how would you describe the business environment that we're coming into at present and what we're stepping into? Inflation has been contained. Growth has been lackluster based on Q1 GDP at 5.4%, where expectations were for growth of 5.9%. Interest rates are expected to come down. How would you describe this kind of environment that we have right now and what we're stepping into as we get into the second half of the year?
Well, as I said earlier, we do have guarded optimism. some of the issues that have been discussed, and I'm sure that the new government, the new Congress, will hit the road running. And we would like to see that there are less bureaucracy in our government. And this is what we've been hearing from a lot of the small and medium-sized businesses, that we haven't seen any real improvement on the ease of doing business. We still have a lot of unnecessary compliance that are asked of the business sectors. And I would like to suggest that I'm glad that the ARTA, the anti-red tape, has been very aggressive. Secretary Ines Perez, that they be given more people, in a way, budget to help the private sector and remove some of the unnecessary compliances that it's imposed on businesses. We have enough, difficult time complying, and some of the key government agencies like Bureau of Customs and BIR, they continue. Maybe that they find it necessary, but it's taking a lot of effort from the private sector to comply with what they're asking for.
Yeah, well, may they have the willpower and act with urgency to get the reforms that we need out there. All right, thank you so much for your time, George Barcelon, PCCI President.
Thank you.
Taking a short break, Business 360 will be right back. Welcome back. A new round of work is about to kick off on EDSA, one of Metro Manila's busiest and most critical traffic corridors. The Department of Transportation and the MMDA are laying the groundwork for improvements along the EDSA busway system, including station accessibility and passenger flow. Our mobility correspondent G. Baroga tells us what commuters can expect in the coming months.
Instead of a rehabilitation, EDSA will undergo a full rebuild according to Transport Secretary Vince Dizon, and work is set to kick off around mid-June.
Following their latest meeting, transport agencies DOTR, MMDA, and the DPWH say it's time to finally get things rolling.
Ito hindi to rehab. Rebuild na talaga to ng EDSA. Total rebuild. Babaguhin na natin ang EDSA. Mahirap siya habang ginagawa, magta-traffic, may perwisyo, pero pag natapos ito, talagang napakalaking ginawa nito para sa mga kababayan natin.
To help deal with the inevitable congestion, MMDA will roll out a traffic management plan next week. The agency earlier filed an urgent motion to lift the temporary restraining order on the No Contact Apprehension Policy or NCAP, and the Supreme Court has partially granted it, allowing the policy to be implemented on major roads in Metro Manila, including EDSA. MMDA Chairman Don Ortiz says the policy will help ease traffic flow during the construction period.
Kung may NCAP na yung mga violators, hindi na namin kailangan parahin, magtalo, issuehan physically ng ticket, na habang ginagawa yon ay nakakaabala pa sa traffic. So kung may NCAP, tuloy-tuloy na yung takbo at uhulihin na lang namin through CCTV cameras.
Updates to the NCAP include higher fines, an easier way to contest violations through MMDA's online system, and review of AI-captured violations. The EDSA rebuild also includes work on the Guadalupe Bridge in Makati. While earlier reports say this will cause major disruptions, MMDA says otherwise.
Magko-construct muna ng detour bridge na doon muna dadaan habang nire-rehab yung Guadalupe Bridge. So, minimal effect naman sa traffic. Meron pa rin pero hindi ganun kalaki kasi may replacement naman na dadaanan.
The bridge is set to close in October for structural and seismic upgrades. part of a 7.8 billion project funded with help from Japan International Cooperation Agency. Meanwhile, transport officials inspected elevators at EDSA busway stations, with all 18 now working. They also checked out the wheelchair lift at Philam busway station, which, according to the MMDA, did not cost the government a single peso.
Ang problema natin sa busway, hindi lahat ng mga stasyon pwede nating lagyan ng elevator. Kasi nga, kulang sa spasyo, walang area na pwedeng lagyan ng elevator. Yung wheelchair lift natin, gumagana, maayos, simple, madaling gamitin. I-install natin to sa lahat ng busway carousel stations.
Secretary Dizon also stopped by the Common Station, a project that has seen its fair share of delays. In fact, the DOTR recently terminated its contract with the previous contractor due to what the agency called excessive delays.
Talagang ang laking kasayangan sa oras ang nawala dahil dito. Siguro 4 years ang delay nito. 4 years. Yung 4 years na yun, sana nakikinabang na yung mga kababayan natin. Ang goal natin is sabay matatapos ang Common Station tsaka ang MRT-7 sa 2027, sa umpisa ng 2027.
To speed things up, the DOTR is looking into public-private partnerships which they believe could help finally bring this project across the finish line. For BNC Mobility, G. Baroga.
A social media post from former radio host and columnist Roman Tulfo is raising new questions about national security and foreign access to strategic infrastructure. Tulfo claims that around 400 Chinese nationals allegedly in the country on tourist visas are currently employed by Dito Telecommunity. He alleges that some of these individuals hold executive positions and could be operating as Chinese spies. Tulfo further asserts that they have access to sensitive national data. He says that the foreign workers entered the country during the Duterte administration through the sponsorship of businessman Dennis Uy. He also claims that some immigration agents are aware of the situation and have been using these foreigners as so-called milking cows. The Bilyonaryo news channel has reached out to Dito Telecommunity for comment. A company representative says internal discussions on the matter are still ongoing. Meanwhile, the Bureau of Immigration confirms that it's taking the allegations seriously and has initiated a review. Now, the Commission on Elections reminds candidates from the recent midterm polls that failing to remove campaign material is considered an election offense under COMELEC Resolution 11086 and the Fair Elections Act. Candidates were required to take down posters, banners, and other campaign paraphernalia within 5 days after Election Day or by May 17th. So far, authorities have confiscated over 64 metric tons of campaign materials in Metro Manila alone.
Again, wag pong sabihin ng iba, natalo na naman ako eh. Mabuti kung ito yung last na pagtakbo nyo, may tatakbo pa ulit sa susunod eh. Hindi po ba? And therefore, yung mga ginawaan pong kasalanan sa kasalukuyan, pwede pa rin namin pong ituloy yun na kasalanan kahit sa pag nag-file na ng certificates of candidacy sa mga susunod.
The Commission on Elections declares the 2025 midterm elections as the fastest conducted in Philippine history. COMELEC Chairman George Garcia says the national canvassing wrapped up in just 3 days, with winning senators and party list groups proclaimed shortly after.
Pinakamabilis na eleksyon when it comes to everything. When it comes to the sending of the results, gawin ng May 12 proclaim na mga mayors. Pati po mga konsihal, pati po mga sangguniang bayan. Kinabukasan, ang pinakamatagal Miyerkules ng umaga, proclaim ang lahat ng governors. Hindi niyo po napansin? Pag maaga ang proklamasyon, mabilis ang proklamasyon, mabilis ang result, walang patayan, walang nagkikita, walang nagnanapan ng ballot box. Ito po kasi yung kaunang-unahang pagkakataon din. 3 araw lang po kami nag-canvas ng result. Na dati 3 weeks. Noong 2022 elections, 25 days tayo nag-canvas ng result para sa Senador, 25 days. Kami po 3 days lang, the fastest in the history of Philippine election.
Despite the operational success, the Commission is now calling for a higher budget, particularly in preparation for the 2028 national elections, which will determine the country's next president and vice president.
Ang problema po namin nagsimula doon sa budget namin, naalala niyo na, dito po ako yung isa nating pagpupulong, sabi ko, tinanggal lang kami ng 14 billion na budget. So ano po yung effect nun? Ang effect nun, dapat ang bilang ng presinto mo ay ganito kadami, hindi ka makapagpadami ng presinto sapagkat pag dumadami ang presinto, dumadami ang bilang ng mga electoral board. Dumadami ang bilang ng mga gamit, kahit yung makina, ballot box at ilang election paraphernalia. Pag po nagkaganon, mas malaki po ang budget na kailangan.
The COMELEC says early funding support will be critical to maintaining automation, voter access, and election security in the years ahead. Now, the defeat of several political heavyweights in the 2025 midterm polls is now raising deeper questions about the future of political dynasties and the shape of the 2028 presidential race. The Center for People Empowerment in Governance, or CENPEG, warns that while high-profile losses, including Cynthia Villar and Gwen Garcia, suggest voter fatigue with dynastic politics, the traditional system still holds strong.
One of the major observations of CENPEG post-analysis is that there is no significant shift in the composition of power. The newly elected senators and officials represent a continuation of elite rule. Meaningful reform in governance remains elusive, no? Dahil karamihan ng miyembro ng Kongreso natin hanggang ngayon, no? They are mostly composed of members of political dynasties. So how can you expect them to legislate against their own interests, no?
CENPEG notes that massive campaign spending, state resource leveraging, and personality-driven politicking continue to dominate, despite gains by the liberal tandem of Kiko Pangilinan and Bam Aquino. The think tank says the 2028 presidential election will likely hinge on the youth vote, with millennials and Gen Z now making up 60% of the electorate. As political clans reassess their strategy and voters push for greater accountability, analysts say that the next 3 years will be crucial in defining the direction of reform and democratic participation in the country. The beloved Tsukiji restaurant in Makati mourns the passing of its longtime sushi chef Toshiro Okajima, a quiet yet influential figure who helped define Japanese dining in Manila. Founded in 1989 and owned by the Gamboa family, Tsukiji built a loyal following for its authentic Japanese cuisine, with seafood freshly flown in from Tokyo's Tsukiji market. Chef Okajima led the sushi counter for 25 years, earning respect for his discipline, consistency, and attention to detail. In a statement, Malu Gamboa, general manager of the Lindo Group, described him as always present, never absent, a warm presence who made diners feel at home. He welcomed generations of guests with his smile and thoughtful gestures. Originally a fish buyer at Tokyo, Okajima brought his experience to Manila, helping turn Tsukiji into one of the Philippines' most respected Japanese restaurants. His legacy lives on in the standard he set and the community he helped build, a presence that will continue to shape Tsukiji's story for years to come. We're taking a quick breather. Business 360 will be right back. Welcome back. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio tells a Senate subcommittee that his office has revoked possibly thousands of visas, citing national interests and foreign policy concerns. Under the Trump administration, the U.S. has canceled hundreds of visas nationwide, including those held by some lawful permanent residents. The move is based on a 1952 law that grants the Secretary of State sweeping authority to deport individuals whose presence is deemed detrimental to U.S. foreign policy. The statement has raised concerns among foreign nationals and investors, particularly those in the U.S. on long-term visas for work, business, or study. Senator Jeff Merkley questioned the scope of Rubio's interpretation, but Rubio defended the position, stating that a visa is a privilege, not a right. For the Philippines, which sends thousands of students, workers, and executives to the United States each year, the development could signal heightened scrutiny for future applications and entry renewals. Now, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio clashes with Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen during a Senate hearing amid escalating pressure on the Trump administration's foreign policy strategy. The exchange turned heated as Van Hollen slammed Rubio over Washington's failure to curb Israel's military operations in Gaza and its inability to halt Russia's war in Ukraine, as Trump had promised during his presidential campaign.
You know that for 78 days, the Netanyahu government did not allow a scrap of food to enter Gaza to reach over 2 million civilians. 57 children have died from malnutrition so far, and more than 14,000 children are in imminent danger of dying of starvation. And I have to tell you directly and personally that I regret voting for you for Secretary of State. I yield back.
We deported gang members, including the one you had a margarita with. And that guy is a human trafficker, and that guy is a gangbanger, and the evidence is going to be clear in the days to come. You're going to see who you went to defend.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Secretary Rubio has the floor.
Mr. Chairman, he can't make unsubstantiated comments like that.
Secretary Rubio has the floor. You had
Secretary
your time.
Rubio should take that testimony to the federal court of the United States because he hasn't done it under oath.
The confrontation underscores growing bipartisan tensions over U.S. foreign policy, with potential ramifications for global aid flows, security partnerships, and regional stability in Europe and in the Middle East. Now, Chinese President Xi Jinping is urging stronger support for China's manufacturing sector, citing its central role in modernizing the world's second-largest economy. During a visit to a bearing factory in Luoyang City, Xi praised the firm's technological advancements and stressed the need for China to develop core manufacturing technologies independently. He also called for greater investment in the real economy and stronger collaboration between industry, universities, and research institutes to build a highly skilled workforce. The factory now supplies over 40% of wind turbine main bearings in China, underscoring Beijing's push for self-reliance in strategic industries. The statement comes as manufacturing and supply chain resilience remain critical issues for trading partners, including the Philippines, which relies heavily on Chinese industrial goods and intermediate inputs. On another front, the Israeli Foreign Ministry vows not to give in to foreign pressure as international criticism over its military operations in Gaza continues to grow. The statement comes after the United Kingdom put trade talks with Israel on hold. In a social media post, the ministry said it is the British government's prerogative if it chooses to harm its own economy. London also summoned Israel's ambassador with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, saying he was horrified by the escalation. Last week, Israel launched a new phase of military operations in Gaza, with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declaring plans to assert control over the entire territory. The developments signal deepening diplomatic rifts between Israel and key Western partners, with potential consequences for trade relations, defense cooperation, and global supply chains across Europe and the Middle East. Now, elsewhere in the world, Alphabet's Google unveils a new set of artificial intelligence features, signaling its latest push to stay ahead in the global tech race. In its annual I/O conference in California, Google announced that users in the United States can now switch search into AI mode, allowing computer-generated responses to complex queries instead of traditional links. The tech giant also showed off smart glasses that can translate foreign languages in real time, with text appearing right in front of the user's eyes. Google is teaming up with designers Warby Parker and Gentle Monster to develop headsets powered by its new Android XR platform, targeting the expanding augmented reality market.
Starting today, Gemini Live capabilities are free. and rolling out across Android and iOS. Deep Research and Canvas are getting their biggest updates yet. There's a new agent mode coming for multi-step actions that you heard about earlier. We're introducing Gemini and Chrome to help you navigate the web, and you can create stunning images and videos with sound using the new Imagen 4 and Veo 3 models. It's all coming together in the Gemini app as we work to deliver the most personal, proactive, and powerful AI assistant.
The launch underscores how big tech is racing to monetize AI and hardware innovation with far-reaching implications for global workflows, consumer tech, and the future of search across markets, including here in Southeast Asia. And that's it for Business 360. I'm Maiki Oreta. Thank you for joining us, and keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo news channel.